welcome back to another Forge College Explainer. Today we're diving into automating scans in CI/CD pipelines. Now, if you recall our previous lesson on mythril symbolic workflows, we really got our hands dirty, right? We were tuning traces to eliminate those pesky false positives, running targeted checks, and basically making our alerts much easier to triage. But let's be totally honest for a second. Manually running those static analysis scripts locally on your machine every single time you make a code change, it's kind of like churning your own butter. I mean, sure, it's artisanal and maybe it feels super rewarding the very first time you do it, but it takes absolutely forever. Eventually, your arms are just going to get tired. So today, we are going to build a machine to do all that churning for us. We're going to completely automate our Slither and Mythril scans. Here's our architectural blueprint for today. We'll be looking at 1. Escaping the local host. 2. The helper script blueprint. 3. Connecting the CI workflow. 4. Fail fast versus report only. 5. Collecting security artifacts. And finally, 6. Next steps for triage. All right, let's jump right into section 1, escaping the local host and dealing with the manual testing bottleneck. So, picture this. You've tuned your mythril workflows perfectly. The false positives are gone. The constraint sets from your symbolic traces are feeding beautifully into your targeted checks. It's a work of art. But here's the million-dollar question. Who actually runs them? Imagine a team of, say, 5 developers, and they are all merging code late on a Friday afternoon. If you're relying on your teammate Bob to just, remember to run the script locally before he merges his pull request, well, you're going to have a bad time. The absolute chaos of team merges requires a consistent, scalable solution. And that is exactly where a CI/CD pipeline comes in. It acts as the ultimate automated gatekeeper, making absolutely sure that the exact same tuned checks execute on every single commit, entirely automatically. No Bob required. Moving on to section 2, the helper script blueprint. This is where we actually construct the engine. The motor for our assembly line is surprisingly simple. It's a bash helper script, which you'll typically place at tools/analysis/run_scans.sh in your repository. It runs in 3 very distinct steps. Step 1, set up a fresh environment. Step 2, execute Slither and Mythril. And step 3, capture the exit codes. Now, the really cool part here is how incredibly deterministic we make this process. By using specific bash commands like set-e-uo pipe fail, we're forcing the script to exit on any errors, we're treating unset variables as fatal, and we catch any hidden pipeline failures. Then, we throw in a makedir-p results command to guarantee we always have a clean output folder. Basically, we are ensuring our script produces reliable, reproducible outcomes every single time. No silent failures allowed. Okay, section 3, connecting the CI workflow, or wiring it up to the mainframe. To wire all this up, we use a CI provider like GitHub Actions. Let's look at how this builds chronologically inside our .github/workflows/scan.yml file. Minute 1, we check out the code. Minute 2, we set up Python. Minute 3, we install our dependencies, which are Slither and Mythril. Minute 4, we finally run our helper script. And minute 5, we upload the artifacts. Now, stop for a second, because the most crucial point here is this brilliant separation of concerns. Notice how we completely separate the environment setup in minutes 1 through 3 from the actual analysis execution in minute 4. Why is that such a big deal? Because it means you can test your analysis script locally on your own machine with minimal friction without having to fight the GitHub Actions environment every time you want to debug something. It's a real lifesaver. Up next is section 4, fail fast versus report only. Let's talk about quality control policies. All right, so our factory is fully wired up, it's scanning code, but now we have to make a really vital decision. What do we actually do when our engine finds a vulnerability? We generally have 2 main quality control policies to choose from. First up, the fail fast policy. I like to think of this one as the strict bouncer. If your code has a critical vulnerability, the helper script exits with a non-zero code, the CI job fails entirely, and it immediately blocks the team from merging that pull request. You are absolutely not getting into the club. On the flip side, we have the report-only policy. This is more like the observant inspector. The script spots the issues, writes a pass or fail status to a text file, but intentionally exits with a 0, meaning it does not block the merge, it just politely hands you a clipboard of findings for you to triage later. What teams will often do is document these blocker rules in a centralized config file. That way, your pipeline enforces your chosen policy deterministically and consistently across all branches. Which brings us to section 5, collecting security artifacts from the output hatch. So what does our engine spit out at the very end? Artifacts. By definition, an artifact is reproducible evidence, stuff like logs or data files, saved from an automated pipeline run for later debug triage. The essential concept to grasp here is that word, reproducibility. Capturing these files is exactly what makes your continuous verification repeatable, observable, and most importantly, actionable for your team. To give you a better idea, here's what those artifacts look like in practice. Notice that we preserve machine-readable files, like results/slither.json and mythril.json. Those are absolutely perfect for automated aggregators or future triage scripts. But we also preserve human-readable files, like slither.txt for a really quick scan inside the CI user interface, and debug_report.md, which outlines human-oriented remediation steps. Preserving both formats is critical. Your automated tools need that JSON to track data over time, for sure. But a tired developer reviewing a pull request at 6 p.m., they desperately need that markdown debug report to just quickly understand what failed and how to fix it. Now, before you start celebrating and sign off on your fancy new automated pipeline, you actually have to verify that it works. Here is a quick checklist so you know exactly what good looks like. First, check the workflow status in your CI UI. Did it actually complete? Second, download the security-results artifact archive. Are the files you expect actually in there? Third, validate those JSON files locally using a standard parser, something like JQ, just to ensure they aren't malformed. And finally, confirm the exit codes actually match your selected policy. Basically, did the strict bouncer actually block the merge when it was supposed to? Finally, Section 6, next steps for triage. Let's talk about moving forward. With our factory fully operational, verified, and ready to churn out data, let's just quickly summarize the 3 core takeaways of this explainer so you leave here with a rock-solid understanding of CI/CD security automation. Number 1, always separate your environment setup from your actual analysis execution to minimize testing friction. Number 2, write explicit status indicators like a simple status.txt directly to your results folders to make downstream automation a breeze. And number 3, treat your blocker rules as a policy decision and implement them deterministically in a config file. The engine is humming along flawlessly. But here's the catch. Are you ready to interpret the complex vulnerabilities it actually uncovers? Because automating the scans and finding the bugs, that's really only half the battle. In our next phase of this module, we'll be diving deep into how to correlate these findings and reconstruct those symbolic traces. Thank you so much for joining me for this Forge College Explainer. I really hope you found this breakdown helpful and that it saves you some serious time on your next build. To learn more about this subject and to explore a massive library of other fascinating Web3 topics, please be sure to visit forge.college. I'm your host, and I'll see you in the next explainer.